Okay.
He just knows to start that.
Yeah. So FYI, we always dance prior.
Oh.
Yeah, it's always fun to catch people off
Yeah, right.
guard. I thought you'd be moving and grooving on that one.
I didn't know if I was supposed to be
He's like,
not moving,
okay.
and these guys are pointing at me.
We
and there's
just
a big
turned
square
right up.
in front of my head.
There you
Everybody, and sometimes we'll give
Okay.
them the heads up, like, oh, by the way, you're
Yeah.
about to dance, and at times we don't. Just to see, like, what the hell are these guys doing, man? This is weird.
Well, Archie's just giving me this just deep stare. I'm like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do. So I'm just
I'm
not
like,
gonna
move your ass.
That was good. That was a good face. Welcome, everybody. Podcast number 66. This is going to be an interesting podcast because the reason we're brought together today was actually because of a post that I made about 3 or 4 weeks ago, which the intention was never to be racist, but it came across, or how would you put it? People took it as such, right? And at the end of the day, I feel like the conversation ended up between me and you, and there's a lot of noise that went on the side. And the reason why I wanted to have you on a podcast was just to discuss it. You know, have a genuine conversation about what went down and see if we can maybe, who knows, solve one of the world's problems.
Yeah.
But before we do that, can I do your intro?
Yeah, for sure.
The man sitting to my left has worked in the aerospace industry for almost 20 years and has also been in the recording music for the same length of time and has received over $30,000 in government funding to write music grants. He's the fifth of 6 kids, engaged to a beauty named Marrisa, and he also has 2 of his own kids, a 20-year-old daughter and a 9-year-old son. Couple memorable moments in his life would be meeting Wesley Snipes in a bar in Vancouver, and another time meeting the Notorious BIG in LaGuardia Airport back in '97. We're going to talk about that because I love that dude. And one final interesting thing, this man is deathly afraid of crows.
Yeah. Oh my God, yes.
Let's welcome to the show, Dele Opaleke.
Yes, he saved it at the
I
end.
saved it at the end. Yeah, I thought it was going to be a silent E.
Oh.
That's how I've been reading it forever, so it takes a while to redo your mind there, right?
Uh-huh.
So anyways, a quick recap. And I don't want to turn this into a negative podcast, but I feel like it's important. Now that I have you here, I want to talk about this stuff. The post that I made, I guess if I was to define it, came from a point of frustration. And I remember the first line was, the word racism is losing clout with me because everything seems to be racist. And then I made a list of all the things that, now are all of a sudden racist, right? And that had everything to do with the, red hat, the Aunt Jemima logo, the Washington Redskins, and there was a bunch of other stuff that I'm sure it'll come
Uncle Ben's.
well, I didn't write that down, but I think that was.
Yeah.
What was the other one?
Statues.
Statues, yeah. Statues. And and at first I got a lot of people who were like, yeah, way to speak your mind. And then all of a sudden it got onto the point where a lot of people started really taking it into a negative way and basically calling me a straight up racist. And then you stepped in and, you and I basically disagreed on everything,
Yeah.
on everything. But, we did so respectfully. And I think that's the most important thing. So I wanted to maybe ask you, just since I have you here, and I know a lot of people feel the same way with respect to why is this racist and why is that racist. And I understand why we're at where we're at, right? Everybody knows that the whole George Floyd situation kind of triggered this whole thing.
Yeah.
But what kind of bothers me or what makes me frustrated is when that happened, the whole world was united. We're all together. Everybody saw this police officer as a dirtbag. Everybody thought this is awful. And then somehow within a week or 2 or 3, we're in a full-out race war. You know what I mean? And of course, and if you go back to my post, the post definitely wrapped up with saying racism is never going to end as long as the media keeps shoving it down our throats. And I think you didn't necessarily agree with that completely.
Oh, no.
But so my question let's start with this. Why did we go from something where we were completely united with George Floyd? How did we end up back into where everybody was fighting white versus black?
Well, I think first off, I don't think we
talk a little closer.
I don't think we were ever truly really united. Maybe the veil of the idea of unity.
Okay.
But if George Floyd's situation told us anything, right? You said at first we were all together, right?
Yeah.
Or we were seemingly together.
Yeah.
But you start to see it pull apart because you got to realize that when people start putting their foot in the sand, now you see where alliances lie, right? So you're having family members on both sides, right? You're having black family members saying, no, he was this, and they're on this side of the issue. And then you're having white family members disagreeing with their white family members. So the reason there was chaos is because for the first time, not even for the first time, this is like Rodney King all over again. Right? That's what this is. Like for black people, this is Rodney King all over again. Okay. So in our respect, we're like, how is this going to play out? because we saw these cops get off last time. So we're like, okay, we're gonna lose our shit early this time.
Okay.
We're not waiting for verdicts. We're gonna lose our shit early.
Yeah.
So we have the reason is because you have everybody disorganized in their thoughts on this issue, and we were never really together. So that's my first, I guess, response to your first question.
Yeah.
Um,
You don't think we were together? You don't think that we were kind of all on the same side because of this?
Well,
And
yes and no, but because even after it happened, I'm still seeing the posts of like, well, if he had done what he was supposed to do, he'd be alive. Or why didn't he agree? You know, like we shouldn't be seeing.
So
any
if George
of those.
Floyd didn't do a crime, that he wouldn't be
Yes.
in the position that he's in. Where
Exactly.
Okay. Yeah.
Right. You see those statements.
Yeah.
And majority of the time, they're coming from a certain person of color. Person, you know, a certain color of person.
Yeah.
So it's very hard to be able to say, okay, not want to paint everybody the same brush, right? That's what happens because with anger, you see one comment and then you're like, okay, they're all like that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then vice versa.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's what's happening. People just put their foot in the sand and said no.
Yeah.
Racists are like, you know, I'm tired of pretending to be racist. I'm going to be outwardly racist.
Right.
And the black, strong, proud guys were like, no, I'm going to be outwardly pro-black. And then you have this clash.
Yeah.
And then you have all the people that are in the fray that want to be here supporting as, you know, and protest. They're getting caught up in the mix, right?
So did you find that a lot of, because I didn't see this, and maybe because of who I follow on Facebook or watch on social media, I didn't see a lot of white people dig their foot in the sand and be like, screw it, I'm still protecting the cop. I didn't see that at all.
Well,
Did you?
I did.
You
that
did?
has to do with our algorithms, right?
Okay.
Who are we seeing?
Yeah.
We're seeing, for example, you tried to send me a post the other day.
Yeah.
Right? You were trying to send me a video.
Yes.
I couldn't see it.
Right.
Why couldn't I see it? This is Facebook. It's wide open.
Yeah.
So right there, that's showing you there's certain things that are being controlled that are only going to be shown to certain people. And there's a reason why Facebook is in Congress and stuff like this. There's a reason because they're controlling information. So that's also going to feed into what's happening. So if all I'm seeing on my timeline is what I'm seeing, but I'm thinking of it level-headedly.
Right.
But there's a lot of people that don't approach it in that way.
Right.
They're seeing the same 10, 15 people. They're getting into conversations with them. Okay, they're waiting for this guy to post again so they could jump on him, right? We all see these guys. It happens every day.
Yeah.
And it's more of that. And a lot of it is happening in social media, right? And we're seeing what's on the TV. And then we're just extrapolating that and saying that's what's happening.
Yeah.
So
basically you're saying that Facebook or the big tech companies are kind of throwing us the things that are going to make us a little crazy?
Well, there's not enough fact-checking out there. There's not enough control of the truth, right? So you have anybody can put anything out there. Like if you're going to be controlling things, control the truth. Put out the truth. But you can. There's so many posts where people are like, that's not true. If you check it, and you'll read it at first, and it can look really real.
Yeah.
A lot of these things can look really real, and that's going to fuel people on both sides. If somebody is really a real hardcore bigot, and they see something that supports their views, of course, that just reinforces how you felt before this.
Right.
So I mean, that it ain't helping.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
But in today's day and age of social media, everybody's expert.
Yeah. And do you think there ever is a truth, or do you think there ever is a fact? Because I feel like you could probably hit me with some facts that would support your narrative. I could hit you with mine, but they're always sort of skewed a little bit to the narrative. You know what I mean?
Well, this is what I
like. How do you find the truth? The truth.
And this is when I talk to people about this issue. I always talk to them about my truth.
Okay.
I can only tell you about my situations that go from grade 3 up to 36, 37, almost up to almost 40 years old, right? And situations that have happened to me where at a young age, I thought it was normal. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't realize this was racism because I thought it was normal. Like, in grade 3, my teacher picking up my desk and emptying it out. You know, I thought this was normal. My mom had to walk to school. This guy gets fired. Like, I thought it was normal.
He emptied your desk because?
I don't know. I'm assuming, hey, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. But looking back on it now at a 40-year-old's eyes, I'm like, nobody else got their desk emptied. I wonder what the root of it was. Can I say it was racism? No.
Right.
But when I start pulling pieces of the puzzle from different pieces of my life, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Maybe what was racism just felt normal to you. And I'll be honest, I grew up in a great neighborhood. Both my parents are university educated. So I was a kid who grew up in a place where I should have never dealt with that.
Right.
So that's what made it real to me. So I can only talk about getting pulled over by a cop and him telling me he has to check my battery. Battery check.
Your battery on what?
Here in Winnipeg.
Your cell phone?
I don't know. My car.
Okay.
Yeah, battery check. I'm a 35-year-old man driving my own car going home. Like, these are the kind of things. So when something like this happens, the last thing I want to hear is any type of disagreement that this can still be real.
Right.
Right? Because from my experience, I can't speak for anybody else, but from my experience living my life, I've faced it enough that it's real, and it's usually comes in positions that people who are in authority over me.
Okay.
So that's my story. That's all I can really say.
Okay, so let me challenge you on this then. So you're claiming that it's racism. So your teacher emptied your desk. So what happened before that? Were you being a little disruptive child, or were you throwing Did you start a fight?
I'm not that. See, I was never that kid.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I was never that kid. I was never the kid getting in trouble. I never got kicked out of class. I didn't cheat on tests. Like, I was just a good, regular kid.
Yeah.
When the teacher ended up getting fired,
yeah.
right? Why did he get fired? Nobody's telling me, right?
Right.
I'm just knowing, okay, maybe he treated me wrong. Maybe he has other issues. I don't know.
Yeah.
I can only tell you how that situation went with me and what happened as a result.
Was there a lot of kids of color in your school?
Not very many.
Not very many?
My sister, and maybe a few other kids that lived in there.
But in your opinion, you're pretty sure he did this because of the color of your skin?
It felt
like he was racist?
Looking back on it now,
okay.
It feels that way, right?
Yeah.
Can I say that definitively? But I mean, what kind of teacher does that to a kid? I don't know.
I remember being in school, and one of my teachers took a kid and slammed him against a locker. So upset with this kid, man.
Yeah.
Picked him right out of his chair, and then we had lockers in the classroom.
Okay.
And he took like 1, 2, 3 and slammed this kid. The kid's legs came off the floor.
Yeah.
So I feel like maybe back then there was just a little different way of punishment. Like you could get away with a lot of different stuff. You know what I mean? And I saw that. That was when I was in Happy Thought School, which was in East Selkirk. So I would have been in grade 6, 7, or 8. I can't remember which grade it was. But that was a crazy thing. And so like this battery check, and I'm not questioning you on it, but of course I'm going to question you on it because we're doing the podcast. So a cop pulls you over and says, "I want to check your battery."
So he pulls me over. I'm driving my BMW.
Okay.
Right? So he pulls me over. I don't have this BMW as a result of this anymore because I got tired of getting pulled over. Right?
Okay.
Multiple, 3, 4, 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
So he pulls me over. I'm working midnights. I'm going home. I think it's like 7 something in the morning. Just before I'm getting to Disraeli, he pulls me over. License registration. Okay, it's freezing. It's like February. My battery's in the trunk, right? So he pulls me over. I'm tired. I'm pissed off now, right? I give him license registration. He tells me first, he's like, "Oh, pull up your emergency brake." I pull up my emergency brake. My car moves a little bit. He's like, "Oh, okay." Starts writing down. So he's like, "Oh, I need to check your battery." I said, "You need to check my battery." He's like, "Yeah, I got to check your battery." So now I'm like, "Okay, you want to play games? Let's play then." He's like, "Okay. Open up your hood." I'm like, "Sure." I open up the hood. I know my battery's in the trunk.
Mm-hmm.
So he's in there fiddling around minus 30 something, right?
Yeah.
Freezing. So eventually I'm laughing in there and I'm like, "Oh, sorry, I forgot my battery's in the trunk." I said, so he's pissed off now. So he goes in the back, he checks it. Anyway, goes to his cruiser, comes back, gives me 2 tickets.
Okay.
$600 in tickets.
For what?
For what?
My what do you say? My emergency brake not working. Faulty apparently, and my tint was too dark on my back windows. Even though I had already had it cleared, your back windows can be as dark as you want, and my front windows were clear. So bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't know what else to call that.
Right. And you weren't being aggressive driver. You weren't.
No. I'm just driving home.
Yeah.
Just driving home. That's all.
I don't. I have the same story from my buddy Sean. He's a good friend of mine. Black guy. He used to drive a 300. Right, classic car.
Oh, yeah.
And he used to be a hairdresser, and he's very out there with respect to his fashion. He's a loud guy. That was actually the video I was trying to send you was from him, and the video was just a real. It was like, this is why people ruin it for white people, because this girl was just outwardly being super racist, but I guess you couldn't open it. So, anyways, he said the same thing, and he's actually been in court. He's the kind of guy like you, like he fights back immediately. So the second that he gets pulled over, he's already gathering evidence. He's taking pictures, and he has fought every offense in court and won. And he got to the point where what's the old chief that used to be here?
Devin.
Devin.
Oh, Devin Clunas.
Devin Clunas. Yeah. Got to the point where Devin Clunas actually picked him up one day and said, "I'm going to drive you and get your car," because they had impounded his car for some reason. Sean lost his marbles.
Wow.
The chief of police picked him up and took him to get his car, and they're like, "Listen, man, we apologize for this." So I do agree that there has been some level of probably racism within the police community here in Winnipeg based on Sean's story, right? But having said that, you probably know police officers, we do too, and I can tell you that having conversations with them, they're not inherently racist, not at all. They're certainly not out there trying to mess with guys like you. You know what I mean? So I don't know. It's a tough call. Like I know you feel a certain way, and then when I see it or when I talk to them and I ask tough questions, I don't see it. So this is probably where you and I disagree. Is all about the perspective and what we've done it, right?
Well, I think it goes deeper to just a level of mistrust. Like when police drive up next to me, I have insurance. I have never been arrested. When they pull up next to me, I'm worried. It's just this inherent. If you can ask Black people, but why is that? You know what I mean? Like, why do we have that feel? It comes from somewhere. So whether it is happening now, there's a hangover effect, and I think that's kind of like what's being talked about in a situation like this. Though things are improving, the hangover effect is like when somebody's saying, "Man, I'm tired of this shit," and then hearing the response of like, "Well, you know what? The cops aren't really that bad anymore." My response is that there are grandmothers who are alive right now that can tell us stories that would blow our minds, and they're alive, right? These aren't some great grandmother's stories. Like, these are people who are 80, 90 years old. So if I can go talk to somebody right now and they can tell me a story like that, we all know it takes a lot of years for something like that to work its way out of the system. It may not be in the system in the sense of like how it's designed originally, but those people who are in power, it's going to take time for them to trickle out. So that's kind of like what this is. It's the trickle out effect. But
the trickle, meaning politicians, like old white politicians, need to get themselves out of the system.
Well, yes, and the systems that they've set up are now being broken down over time, but it's still taking time, and nobody gives up that type of power willingly.
Yeah, that's fair.
Right? Yeah. So that's where I was like, what we need is an agreement that, guess what? Can we agree to say, yeah, there is some there, but it maybe isn't as bad as it was. Like, people can't agree to have that conversation. It's either, you know what, go and work for it. You know what I mean? Why do you want something for something that happened years ago?
Yeah.
You know, say that to Jewish people.
So let's talk about that.
Right?
Let's talk about that. So you were never a slave?
Nope.
I was never a slave owner?
Nope.
Why do I got to feel bad about it, and why does it still bother you? Answer that question so we know.
I'll answer that, okay? And with an example. So I was watching T.I.'s Instagram the other day. So he tracked down some information. So there's a company called Lloyd's of London, which is still in existence today. Lloyd's of London insured those ships back in the day. They insured the first slave ships going back. So if this company now is worth billions of dollars,
which still exists
today. So I think this would be fair, and people can agree with me or disagree with me. If there are companies that exist right now whose proceeds were made off of that and they're still in existence, don't you think that they deserve to pay something as a result of that? Maybe not you personally, right? But these are companies that are worth billions and maybe will go on to be worth trillions of dollars one day. That you can't have that without that seed money.
Okay.
So I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Where that money goes, no. But I think agreeing on the fact that somebody benefiting to the tune of billions of dollars off of the backs of people, no matter if it was 100 years or 200 years ago, shouldn't matter.
Right. What's the name of that company again?
Lloyd's of London.
Lloyd's of London. So what does Lloyd's of London do now? What is their?
I believe they're still in the business of insurance.
Insurance. Oh, I see. So they insured the boats that brought Black people here to be slaves. So now, okay, I see.
They made no pun intended, boatloads of money.
Yeah. Okay.
Right?
So what would be the right answer? How would you address them? What is there a dollar value? Like what? How do we solve it?
I'm sure, and you know what? This is where math is great. Okay. I'm sure slave owners kept great records of how much money was made. You can probably break that down by person, right? How many slaves did you have? How many crops? These guys made money, so obviously they were businessmen. There's going to be some level of records or understanding of how much was made, right? Okay. What that dollar value would be worth. What that dollar value would have been if you had not had those slaves. Like, I'm sure mathematicians can figure that out right now.
Okay.
Right?
So do you think that the owners of that company, that insured the boats, are you assuming that they knew what was going on in those ships?
Yes.
So let me ask you this. My insurance, Wawanisa or Red River or whatever, they insure crack houses all the time, slave houses. You know what I mean? Prostitution houses. They just insure homes, man. They
not knowingly.
Yeah,
not
but
knowingly.
But is there proof that they actually knew that they were transporting slaves? Because if there was proof that, the head honcho was saying, you know what, we support slaves, and here's the documentation to say it, but otherwise they're business, man.
I mean, if you go to that point in time, I bet you, because at this point you got to realize it wasn't illegal. Right?
Yeah, it's a legal thing. They weren't right.
So this wasn't something they were hiding, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not saying when they did it, sure, it may have been legal, right? But that doesn't mean that now that we've come forward that we're saying, okay, that was okay. If they can accept that, okay, guess what, guys? Yeah, we did. We've made this amount of money, and this is how much we've made moving forward as a result of it. I just think we got to get to a point of humanity. Why do we have to go to court for this? Like, why shouldn't a company be like, we're worth $50 billion. We're going to give $2 billion to the NAACP because that's the right thing to do. Like, this is the place we need to be at. That shouldn't even be a discussion. Like, we shouldn't. These are things we should be able to talk about and move past.
Yeah. Okay.
So let me ask you this then: have you ever been to a third world country like Thailand or the Philippines?
Well, I just came back from Nigeria.
Okay, I don't know about Nigeria, but I've been to Thailand, and there the sex slave is like the sex industry. You're looking at 12, 13-year-olds, and that's pretty standard. That's normal there.
Yeah.
Now, the people that are hosting these businesses are generally family members, right? So it's like, what about the people that are building owners? Down there, it's normal. Like, you see guys, when I'm taking a trip to a third world country and I see a random dude by himself, I'm like, I know where you're going.
Yeah,
I know what you're doing.
Yeah.
But there, it's normal. You know what I mean? That's just what they do. And so if we rewind back to slave days, and I don't condone it at all, but that was kind of like the normal back then. And so it's like, I don't know if I agree with people having to pay based around what was the normal back then. I think if they're still doing it and they're aware of what they're doing, it's like sin, right? It's a sin when you become conscious of what you're doing and then you repeat that sin. That's when it becomes a problem. But if they cut ties with all those, you know what I mean? Like, I'd like to know that. Did they cut ties with those boats? Or are they still working with those guys?
In regards to that, do you think there was ever a time when people who were doing slavery ever thought it was an okay thing? Do you think, like, morally?
I think behind the law they did.
No, I mean,
because
like,
it was legal.
As a human, I'm talking about the human aspect.
Yeah.
Do you think humans as people have ever believed that slavery is an okay thing?
I bet you they. I don't think most people would, but I think they did back then, and they probably looked at it as like, well, we're keeping them alive, we're feeding you, and you just got to work. That's how they're probably looked at. They self-justified, but
so were they
in
the
today's
majority,
eyes, of course not.
Would you think they were the majority or the minority?
Would you say that?
Would you say that the people who believed in slavery, say in the 1600s of the world, do you think the majority believed in slavery or the minority?
I don't know. I can't speak for them.
What do you think?
The people that
I would say that humans are decent, right? Yeah. That we are decent. So I would say the majority of the people. And if you look at wars and things that are happening in the world, it's not being done by the majority of the people of the world. It's being done by the minority of people with these ideas, with these aspirations. And we can see that continuing to this day. The sex trade, right? As you talk about, it's not done by the majority, it's done by the minority. So I don't think it's crazy to think that back then, the minority with the money, which is kind of what happens today, are taking advantage of those without money. So I think the justification that, okay, well, we didn't know it was wrong is no sane human being who isn't a psychopath would believe that slavery was ever okay. So that justification falls apart. And my second thing I would say is this. Murder, for example. There's no limitations, right? If I murder you today, they can come back. If I live to 200 years, they can come and get me.
Okay.
Right?
See where you got. Yeah.
That's
statute of limitations.
There's no statute of limitations on murder.
Yeah.
So explain to me what is the statute of limitations on, say, a situation like this, like reparations.
Okay.
Because it's murder.
Yeah.
Multiple people were murdered. Okay. So let's put a timeline. Is it 500 years?
Yeah.
Is it this may sound crass, but to get to a place where we could have a level of agreement, we got to say, okay, we're going to cap it at 300 years.
Okay.
We're going to cap it at 200 years. And it may sound
so
crass, but
would that satisfy you? If we said here's the time we're going back, is that the number?
No, I'm saying that that's not even a conversation that can be had because it's not even a moral one. Because it bridges the same thing I was asking you about. What's the statute of limitation on murder? There is none. We cannot choose when that is important, when it matters and when it doesn't.
Okay.
Because you're living in 2020 doesn't make your life any less important or any less worthless, right, than somebody who was born in 1600s that was snatched away.
Okay.
Let me ask you guys this question. The clothes you wear right now, was that made in Manitoba?
Probably not.
Not mine.
Okay. So let's go this. Where is it made?
Probably
China.
in China.
My Asian people. How many of these factories collapse on these people every single day, yet we still shop at H&M? You know what I mean? We're talking hundreds of thousands of people. There's apparently some type of dam that's cracking right now, and it's going to wipe out a big chunk of China. Nobody's talking about that. Why? There's billions of us.
I agree with you. And you know,
right?
We're
supporting H&M. We're rocking stuff made in China. My Lulu is designed in Canada, but made in China, right? And so they're in there with the slave factories getting paid nickels for days of work, but yet this is present time. You know what I mean? And I'm not trying to like take any thought of what's going on with. Obviously, I'm not on any side for that, but I mean, there's still that going on, and yet we don't care. We just want everything now. We want everything cheap.
RJ,
Maybe we'll care in 20 years.
But
Maybe.
RJ, but by that logic, right? 400 years from now, we shouldn't care about these guys right now. Right?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I hear what you're saying.
We shouldn't care about them because in 400 years from now, they'll be the same history.
Yeah.
That's my issue with history. We need to treat it with the exact same reverence that we treat the present. I think that is the hugest problem that we're facing, is that because we didn't know them, because they didn't exist in our world, there's people who live on the other side of the world we've never seen. They don't exist. They've lived maybe 30, 40, somebody 90 years old. They don't exist because we haven't seen them.
Yeah.
They could die tomorrow. It's not going to affect us.
Yeah.
That should be no different than somebody who died 1600. Like, so I'm just I break things down to the lowest common denominator. That's how I am. I see things like just very straightforward. It happened a long time ago. You guys are worth a lot of money because of it. Pay up. It's pretty simple to me.
So when does it stop? Which business? Let me ask you this: lowest common denominator. Let's break it down further. So let's say reparations becomes law and it has to happen. Okay, who do you go after? What's the dollar amount? And if you get that dollar amount, does racism stop?
No, racism doesn't stop. This is not because we have two things going on. We have racism and we have classism.
Okay.
Right? Racism.
I agree with classism big time.
Racism is the engine of classism.
Okay.
It's what's used to create that classism, right? So it's just a nice tool. It can be used on social media. It can be disseminated, and it keeps people worried about things rather than worrying about how much money. That's why I'm talking about the dollars.
Okay.
At the end of the day, people do better in certain communities due to their economic advantages.
Agreed. Yep.
That's just it. Yep. And if you have hundreds and tens and years of economic disadvantage, that is the biggest thing affecting you, right? Like, to be able to be even at a level playing, not even a level playing field, but be able to move forward to a place where you can say, okay, college is something you're thinking about, right? Automatically. Getting jobs, getting out of the drug trade, things like this, getting out of like projects, being able to buy a home, have a mortgage, maybe buy a second home, have an investment property. Like, these are things that are not even ideas because of finances, right?
Right.
There's a lot of guys out there with a lot of ideas, but they're pegged into one hole. So with the reparations, I would say, first of all, it would just go down to records.
Okay.
We can only go after what we can prove. That's what I believe in. We can scream till every wall falls down. Let's go after what we can prove. If you can prove it and we can date it back, and those who gets paid. So that's the first part.
So that would be your lineage, your ancestors.
Okay. If you can track it down.
Yep.
Right. And you can bring it to court.
Okay.
And you can prove your burden of proof here. Then leave it up to the court to decide the dollar amount. Right.
Okay.
Obviously, that's going to be based on earnings, future earnings, probably how much was earned over the year, accrued to today's times. It would be a lot of money.
Yeah.
But that's not for me to decide.
And are you saying that it would go to the companies that have been around for hundreds of years that benefited off of that, or are you talking about each individual white person in the world? How do you do that?
No. We're talking about companies because let's be real. We know. Go after who did it. It's like this. If somebody kills my daughter tomorrow, God forbid, I'm not going out there just slashing everybody in the hopes of finding the guy.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm just going after the guy and trying to get that one guy.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty simple. We just go after who we can prove did what.
Okay.
And if they benefited from it and they're still benefiting from it today.
Yeah. Is there something in place that is already doing this?
No.
Like going after the companies like the insurance company?
I don't know. Not that I've heard of. I'm sure there are things behind the scenes. I'm sure NAACP and things like that are probably going after things like that, but not that I've heard. Nothing loud enough, right?
Because at the end of the day, there's always, everybody's got their own way of addressing this issue, right? There's certain things going on that I don't agree with. I don't agree with, the looting and the rioting. If you're going to be burning buildings down, I'm completely closed to whatever you have to say. But what you just said, sure, I think that could be, that could work. But how do you start it, right? So I feel like a lot of people, we talk about it all the time. We reference history all the time. We talk about classism, racism, but nobody really comes up with the solution. And so my question, going back to it, was, let's say you got the reparations. Let's say a dollar amount was given to you because they proved that your ancestors. At that point, do you now feel better about everything?
I wouldn't say that's a personal question, right? That for every black person
Sure.
would have to
Yeah,
you
so
know, answer that, right?
I'm asking you, yeah.
For me, I think the most important thing is acknowledgement, right? They talk about this in Germany. They have statues acknowledging how terrible the Holocaust was.
Okay.
But in the U.S., they're fighting to keep Confederate statues. Like, that's like somebody spitting in your face. Like, it's the lack of acknowledgement. The money, right? It's like in a civil case. The money it's the consolation. It's like when a guy loses 28 years of his life in prison, it's not the money.
That's a good
It's
point.
him standing in the court and the court being like, you were innocent. Like, you've heard this story 10 million times.
Yeah.
Every guy's just like, I just needed to hear those words. I could not plead guilty. I think it's that same kind of feeling, but if you voice it, like Black Lives Matter, right? All lives matter, right? Like, so it's this counterpoint of, yeah, we know, but we're not going to say it. And I think we as humans, that's all we want. Everybody wants acknowledgement. They want to be acknowledged that, guess what? Maybe it's not your pain. Maybe it's your grandma's pain. Maybe it's your auntie's pain, but it's been passed on to you in some way, in some form. And you just want to hear it, maybe for them.
Okay.
Right?
So acknowledgement. So give me some examples of how I like to find solutions to things, right, as opposed to just talking about them all the time. So what would you like to see? Maybe a different statue. Maybe is it something? How do we acknowledge it so that everybody feels better about it? What is the way?
Oh, see, it's multifaceted because I think I talk about this even with my black friends. I say, with black people, we are from so many countries, right? So when you say black, people just say black.
Right.
We have all these borders, right? You have all these countries in Africa. They don't all get it. It's not like everybody gets along. All these countries in the Caribbean. So because it's not the same as, say, you would say like Chinese, there's 2.5 billion, right? But they're all Chinese, right? India, they're all Indian. So this problem has so many different faces across the world. So there's not going to be one fix all. But I think what we were talking about was essentially the U.S. Like the U.S. and Africa, I think, are two societies where the majority of people, when they think about black people, they get their ideas from those two places, right? The U.S. and Africa. It's just two of the most publicized and most well-known. So how those two societies are viewed across the world is going to affect black kids everywhere, right? Because it's a sense of pride. When you think of Africa, every time growing up, go back to Africa. It's an insult. Why is that? I was just in Nigeria, in Victoria Island. This place is more beautiful than anything we have here.
Yeah.
It is unbelievable. Yeah. So this idea that Africa is some barren wasteland, there is problems, but we need to change that perception. Yeah. Right? So it starts with like respect. It's the way we talk about. It's the way we talk about like black situations or like working, or we're always publicizing the things that are like pop. Right? We don't talk about the doctors. We don't talk about like it's always football players and basketball players. And I have to admit, I'm part of that. Yeah. Right? You get caught up into that mix, right? So it's just changing the idea of what the most famous black person. Right. If you thought about it right now, it's going to be Jay-Z, Beyonce. Like it's going to be one of those, even for me. Yeah. That's not good. Yeah. Right? That's a good point. Yeah. So that I think is the most important thing, just changing the look of how we see ourselves. Yeah. Right?
So how do we do that? How do you do that? How does the black community look at their Tiger Woods? Do you think Tiger Woods ever sits there and says, "I want reparations," or I was?
Well, Tiger Woods says he's not black, so he's already out. He's not in the group.
He says he's not black. What do you mean he says not black?
Yeah, go look it up.
What is he then?
I'm OJ.
What is he?
Exactly. Okay. Yeah. Well, he said he's biracial. You know, when asked, he stepped away from it, right?
Because he is part Asian.
But do you think he said that because of political correctness, as opposed to just taking a side, just to say that he's even, he's neutral, and he doesn't want to, stir the pot?
I think he said it because that's how he feels.
Okay.
But also, anybody who's part black is black when it comes to in the sports world, right? Like that's all. Like in the black community, we claiming you. I don't care if you got 1/16th. You're ours.
Yeah.
You're black now. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I think a lot of black people are offended. What do you mean you're not black? Bro, you're black.
Yeah.
Your blackness is winning you them golf games. What are you talking about? So, but I mean, to each his own.
Yeah. See, I see the opposite side. Like we have even employees here that are biracial, right? Chelsea and Big Mama. They claim to be black. They're white.
Yeah.
They're white like me, but they're black according to them. You know what I mean? So
what am I?
You're Filipino.
You met my mom, right? She was just here.
I know that you're half Ukrainian. I know.
She's white as day.
Yeah.
No.
You didn't know that?
No.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. I know. First time I saw his mom, I was like, RJ's mom is white.
I can always argue that because you got to come from somewhere.
Yeah.
And there's proof I came from her.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, he's straight right
Fair
from Nipawa. Doesn't get much more Ukrainian than that.
Wow.
Anyways, sorry, I lost my train of thought. What were we talking about here? Because I was on a roll.
Claiming race.
Actually, going back to the statues. So that was one of the things in my post. They said
Yes.
everything is racist, including statues.
Yes.
I see your point now, right? It's kind of a slap in the face that this person who was outwardly racist, I guess. I mean, to be honest, I don't really know all the statues, so I'm just assuming that they are Confederates and whatever. But let's say, who's that guy that discovered America?
Oh,
He's an
Christopher
Italian,
Columbus?
Christopher Columbus. You want that gone? Is he racist?
I mean, let's just read the book.
Because in the Italian community, he is looked at as a hero because he discovered North America or the U.S., right?
From what I know about the story, it's like you're bringing blankets and killing people with like diseases on purpose. That's not a guy that we should be celebrating.
Right.
I don't care what he found.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
you deliberately killed people on purpose to steal their land. Like this is the only part of the conversation we need to be having.
Yeah. No, I hear you. And so,
What if you discovered Disneyland and just gave Walt Disney syphilis and it's like, no, this is mine now.
Yeah. So three rights don't cover up for one wrong kind of thing.
No, there were already people there.
Yeah.
Willing to trade and be in union with you.
Yeah.
Right? Like we just gotta once again bring it back to the human aspect. If I invite you into my home and you kill me,
Yeah.
fair
and
enough.
then after you kill me, you put up a statue at my house,
And then people honor you.
and then people honor you,
Yeah.
and
You
my
have a
family
day.
are coming and like take that down, and they're like, no, but it's history.
Yeah.
This is where we are,
I
right?
see
Like,
your point.
it's the same thing here.
Yeah.
I'm learning about LaGuardia and all these guys. I didn't know about these guys.
Yeah.
I didn't know what these guys did. Like, I'm like, okay, well, even last year I stopped celebrating Thanksgiving
Why?
because I talked to a native friend of mine, right, that I work with, and I realized I had been celebrating the commercialized Thanksgiving, the turkey. It's a turkey. Thanksgiving is about turkey. Christmas is about Santa. Easter is about the Easter bunny, right? Like this, they just make these things and they commercialize it, but I never really thought about it. I'm like, what am I celebrating? And after I talked to him, I'm like, I can't do this. I'm not going to do this now. Like, I just felt wrong.
What did you find out?
Just what Thanksgiving is.
Yeah.
That same story I just told you. The whole Christopher Columbus is just, we just redid it again.
So what do you celebrate then? Like, what's some things that you celebrate? Do you celebrate any holidays?
Well, Christmas.
Okay.
Obviously, I got kids, so
Yeah.
Christmas you're going to be
Christmas because of Santa or Christmas because of Christ? Because the Jehovah Witnesses would argue against that.
Yes, I'm not Jehovah's Witness.
Yeah.
Christmas because, well, obviously it started with, Christ. That's how I learned coming up in the church. Now I haven't been going to church as much, and but it's a tradition. Everybody pretty much, not everybody, but a lot of people celebrate, and it's the commercialized Christmas that I celebrate for sure. And I'm trying to do less of that kind of stuff with my son, and try to teach him a little bit more of the reality of situations. But it's hard to tell somebody, hey,
We're not celebrating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of these things are based just on presence and money,
Yeah.
consumerism. You know what I mean? Who knows even
But
what?
it's also, I don't know. I look at it the opposite direction too. Like, I celebrate. We don't do a lot of holidays, to be honest with you. But if they're gonna do something fun for the kids, and if it's in a positive manner, obviously I'm not going to celebrate hanging people or taking over people's countries. That's not the message we're getting across. But I think for me, I'll educate my sons about what this is actually holiday is about. What is the tooth fairy? You know what I mean? So this is what you're getting. And then when you get old enough to understand what it actually is, then I'm going to teach you that. It's just like teaching about sex. You know what I mean? I'm not going to teach him about sex right now, but when it gets to that point, I'm going to teach him what that is. And so do you think that people, I feel like there's two sides to this. There's the people that are kind of oblivious, and there's nothing wrong with that. I would say that I'm oblivious to this whole situation. I turned on the news for 5 minutes, and I was just horrified. There's hurricanes everywhere. There's in Texas, they're getting flooding. You know what I mean? I was like, that was 5 minutes. I'm like, I don't want to hear this. I'm going to live my life. I want to live happy right now.
Yeah.
And then there's the side that they're just taking strong stances. And, the racial thing, I read Rick's post. I read 5 comments. I got out of it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to be a part of that. That's just who I am. You know what I mean? But then there's the business side of it where I get a little bit more involved. But again, somebody made a post about phase 4 opening. They want to open up capacity here in Manitoba. And I'm like, we have so little cases.
Yeah.
It's, things, there hasn't been any issues. So why not? And then I read the thread and there's idiots. These guys don't know what they're doing. It's too soon. There's a big wave coming up in September. It's July.
Yeah.
This post was in June. You're worried about what's happening in September?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I feel like there's two sides. There's the people that are just like, you know what, I'm just going to stay out of it. You guys go ahead and fight. And then there's the people that are debating, like you two gentlemen, like you guys. I think the way that you guys are handling it is the way it should be done. And then you got obviously the extremists. You know what I mean? The people that, so you got the people that like me, just, you know what, you guys do your thing. You guys go ahead, argue, whatever. I'm just going to be in the backs doing my thing, right? And then you got the debaters, which is where I feel that's where it needs to happen. And then you got the extremists. Like you can post anything, like the sky's blue. Well, the sky is actually dark blue.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Don't you dare post and tell me what I can and cannot see in the sky. You know what I mean? There's always those people, and I feel like those people are the ones that are kind of getting the most attention in social media. And the people that are watching social media are the people that are just going to keep this whole thing going, whether it's racial or whether it's COVID or whether it's whatever the next thing is. Yeah.
Masks is now the big thing.
And I don't know. I just don't. What do you think that people should do? Or do you think that's how it should lay?
I don't think there's a choice now, right? Like social media has just become life. You know what I mean? Like I've kind of been off for the last few months. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. It's just too much. I poke my head in. I see what's happening. That's kind of like what happened that day when I saw the post. I just poked my head in, and but I think we're too far down the rabbit hole. Like my 9-year-old son can use 5 different devices at once. You know what I mean? And
you
and
can't
he
filter
can
that.
tell you what's on this, and this, and what's on that one, and what's on that one. So it's like I don't think there's necessarily a way around it. I think we're in the middle of it, and it's kind of like a storm. You kind of like, well, we don't want to be in this storm. It's kind of like, well, how about we just hold on for the next little while? Because there's going to be the end of the storm, and how it ends will, I guess, depends on whether we hold on or not, right? Either we're going to get thrown off the boat, or we're going to hold on and make it through. So
So do you think the extremists are, like, when you saw the way some of them attacked me on that thing on the post? Do you think that was fair? The way that they came after you, canceling my business or calling me a straight up racist, posting me on theirs so that all of their minions can attack me? Like, do you think that was the right way to do it?
The funny thing is, I didn't see any of the reposting. I literally just stayed on the thread. And I was just, me and you were just going back and forth. So I didn't see any of that. And I didn't dive into too much of what other people's comments are. Right away, if I can tell your the tone, then I'm not even getting into a conversation with this person, whether they're in agreement or in disagreement. As far as it being right, it's like, it's not for me to tell somebody what's right. I don't know what situations they've been through. Maybe you touched a nerve, and now they're just they're flaring up some bad situation that happened to them, and you are that person now, right? So they're just directing all of that energy at you.
Do you think people actually think before they write sometimes?
I would hope, but since you can do talk to text,
which
I do a lot, I think it's a lot less.
I just think some people post very blindly. Like I've been on the back end of this where people like, you could be me and you could have a full out conversation. 5 minutes later, you go and post something just wild, and I'm like, I just saw this guy. Literally, this happened to me, and I'm like, me and this guy just shook hands, and now he's calling me a sellout. I'm like, what happened? And then I go and see him again, and we have a full-on conversation about life and love. And I'm like, dude, do you not like have a filter between you and your phone? So I just feel like a lot of people, and especially the ones that just like, they're so triggered. I think people are way too triggered. They're checking their updates. They're going between Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. And then as soon as and then whatever triggers them, and I'm a scapegoat of this too. Like, you know how it is when you're on your phone way too much and you're pushing everything aside, and all of a sudden you get trapped in something. And I think you just go down that rabbit hole, and I feel like people just need to pause a little bit, post something. As soon as I get into a conversation with somebody that is not really a direct, like we already, like, okay, we're here. You know what? I'm going to give you 24 hours to cool off. There's a lot of DMs that I have, and I give them 24 hours, depending on how heated they are, sometimes 7 days. And I'm just like, all right, are you okay now? Like, and that's a lot of it happens with, and I've learned this through COVID, where it's like, all right, you're angry. I'm just, you don't even see me right now. You're not even I've had people yelling at me in my face, and they're looking through me. And I'm like, who are you yelling at right now? Me? Or are you mad at somebody behind me? And I'm just like, I personally see through the bull crap first. And I'm like, you know what? Take your time. That's fine. Dump on me.
I think you touched on a good point that I think with this whole George Floyd situation and everything that happened, it's kind of like a lot of people were holding their breath a long time. So now they're screaming.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So you had people that you didn't even know had something to say, talking, and everybody's talking, right? And it's the first time in a while. And I think the people, say on my side, that want the conversation to continue, That's why they keep talking, right? And then the people on the other side that want the conversation to end, they keep responding with, the same responses or whatever it may be, get a life or, so it's slowly going to simmer down, but it's going to be the agitators that are going to keep it somewhat, keep it somewhat hot.
And that's why I like guys like you, because you're the in-betweeners.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's why there are lawyers. What do you need a lawyer for? Why do you got to go through a lawyer? Well, because you can't talk. That's the problem.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So there's always got to be that person that can talk for you and be cool and calm, right?
I think further to your point too is that like my post or any post that is controversial, right? You'll read the post, you'll answer the post, and then somebody's gonna forget to read the post, and they're gonna go to here, and then just slowly it fizzles. It's like I'm only reading. This guy says Rick's a racist. I'm not even reading his post. Rick's a racist. He's a piece of shit. Cancel his business. Murder him.
Fire him.
Plug with his truck. Like that's just what happens, right? Like people forget. Maybe I should actually go back and see what he read. Right?
Yeah, and I read it. I read the post, and I was like, I don't understand what the problem is.
Yeah.
After I kind of read what people were posting first, and I'm like, oh, I better go and read this. And I read it. I'm like, I don't get it. How was Rick turned into a racist from this post?
Yeah.
You know why I think?
And then I posted Rick is not a racist, and I was like, oh God, what do people think?
I'm
he's
gonna
a racist?
And then you got
for
attacked.
saying that. Yeah,
I'm gonna tell you why.
Go ahead.
He got the backlash he did, and it's a good. I'm gonna tell you, it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I'll use myself as an example. When I was at this gym, it's just like I always look forward to coming and see Rick. He's pumping me up. You know what I mean? Same back in the day with NLT, RJ. When people build a personal relationship with you, whether it's personal in person or through your business or online, you actually reach the stage where people feel like they know you. So it's like going to my mom's house and feeling like I know my mom, and then she tells me, you know what, you're not actually my son. You know what I mean? This whole time I adopted you, and your heart is just destroyed.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of maybe for some people's situation.
They put you on a pedestal.
Yeah, they loved you.
Shit, man, that's a good point.
They knew you so much, right?
Yeah.
Or they felt they knew you so much that they were so offended.
That's true.
Yeah,
man.
By somebody. They're like, oh, I know what he's going to feel about this situation.
Yeah.
So would you say that I have a bigger responsibility than I think I do with the words that come out of my mouth?
Well, I guess that's up to you. But I think you saw that because people don't give a shit about somebody who says something that they don't give a shit about.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Totally.
Right?
Yeah.
They don't care.
Yeah.
They'll be like, whatever, and just keep going.
Yeah.
That's a good point. That made sense.
No, I think that, and it's exactly what you said. Like, however you feel about it, Rick, if you want to make an adjustment, if you went out and said something, super racist, we would still probably be friends because I get over stuff quickly, but, your position here would be definitely jeopardized,
Sure.
right? But I feel like it is up to the person how they want to represent themselves in the media, and how you walk around is totally up to you. Like, I don't speak for you. Somebody called me and let me know how it was, and I was like, well, I don't speak for Rick.
Yeah.
So if you have an issue with Rick, then I suggest that you directly message him. There's nothing that I'm going to stand in between the two of you, because your opinion is one and his opinion's the other. Yeah. I don't even really know you, so I'm not taking your side. I'm not taking his side, but I'm saying go directly to the source.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Don't make this a me thing. This is between you and Rick. And so for me, the way that and exactly like that is people come up to me and they'll perfect example, girl saw Neri at No Frills, and like my wife's, she's in my Instagram. I've got almost 8,000 followers. I've got, you know what I mean? Like I've got 5,000 friends on Facebook. So I post about her and the things that we do in our life. And the best way to get attraction is I just post whatever, right? Like this is my life. And so she's like, I saw Neri and I was like starstruck, and I was going to go say hi to her, but then I realized that I'd be a weirdo because she doesn't know who I am. And that's true, right? Like I feel like I know the dude from Sons of Anarchy because I binge watch his show.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? And so it's like that. And so how you represent yourself is how you represent yourself. And the guys that I love the Jordan documentary. You know what I mean? Because he had the racial. You remember that? Did you watch it? Right?
Yeah,
and they wanted him to vote or to be on the black
Charles
politics
Gans,
or whatever. Yeah. And he's like, well, this guy buys Jordans too.
Yeah.
And he got such a lashing for that.
Oh yeah.
Right? And it's like, well, no, but he's making a stand. Like, I'm gonna represent myself how I represent myself. Your opinion of me doesn't determine how good I feel about myself. Jordan donates millions, if not billions, to charities. He does charity stuff all the time. But because he didn't stand for one thing, all of a sudden now he's taking lashings.
Well, I think because at the time when you're at the mountaintop like he is, he's in a small class.
Yeah.
Like they said, him, Muhammad Ali, and one. Babe Ruth.
Yeah.
Right? I would argue you could throw Wayne Gretzky in that group, in my estimation, I would say.
So see, the problem, like I get your point, and that's a good point. Actually, it was very eye-opening. Here's the thing, though. I don't want to get to a point where I can't say what's on my mind. And that post came from a point of frustration, not racism. Very frustrated because, and I'm sure you feel the same way too. Eventually, everybody says everything's racist. So now I can't be my authentic self because I'm like, oh man, what if I say the wrong thing, wear the wrong thing, walk in the wrong way? I don't want to be like that, right? So here's what I worry about. I worry about the fact that because everything is being censored, canceled, attacked, that people like you and me, where we're allies, we're going to separate because, like, man, I just don't want to deal with this. I'm just going to go and hang around with people like me, and you'll hang around with people like you, and then we lose that connection that we have because we're getting so attacked. Like, even at one point, my wife was like, I'm actually scared right now. And I thought to myself, that put me on a whole nother level. I'm like, so now I see all these people who are throwing it under the bus or attacking me. Now I'm starting to see that get aggressive, and that could turn into some lunatic coming after my house, coming after my wife or something.
Yes.
So that put me on a whole new level. Now I'm looking at all these people, and I'm saying, you are now my enemies. And that includes my family, too, who did attack me quite a bit. So somebody like me can either stay in the fight, and you and I can always have good debates, and maybe we can solve something, or somebody like you and me are just, okay, screw this. I'm separating. And then we don't want that, right? That's the opposite of what we want, right? So this is what bothers me about these attackers or these people who are just so quick to, want to basically kill you or to some extent. They're the ones ruining it. They really are. You know what I mean? Totally. You might think they're supporting you, but really they're not. Big picture, they're not supporting anything. They're dividing us again. So my point is, if people want to comment on something like this, just comment like Dele commented to me, and maybe we can sit down and hash
don't take
it
it to the extreme.
With that being said, like, for example, that's the entirety of my life, things that I've learned, you know what I mean? My education that I can articulate that way. That's me. Not everybody can do that. This is what I always say about social media. Social media, it's like, if you put up a post, it's like having the worst argument with your wife over text. Right?
Yeah.
But you don't pick up the phone. You just
I
continue
agree.
to text.
I don't get it.
With no context, no emotion, no facial expressions, no nothing.
They're picking up all the context they want from what they read, and you're dead already. You know what I mean? Like, so that's what I always think. It's like when I'm posting, it's like that's what it's like. So whatever comes, it's kind of like, right? Whether it was good, whether I either own it or I didn't, but I go into it thinking that way. Like,
do you post controversial often?
Not really. I don't. To me, I don't believe in controversial. I just post what I think I believe.
Okay, so have you had a post that created 200 plus comments?
You made it.
This is not Rick's first 200 plus comment post.
Okay.
So people that are following Rick, they should follow the Rick trend. Right? I had somebody actually cancel her membership because of the Rick post. And
I could have told you that was gonna happen.
And I sent her a link to when we had a whole discussion with Chris about racial discrimination and et cetera. And I said, well, have you watched any of his podcasts? Like, do you actually follow his life, or did you just follow a post? You know what I mean? Because if you follow his life, you'll see the people he hangs out with, the things that he does, the words that he says. The one post, unfortunately, it hit a string with people. But what about the history of this person?
Well, that's
that doesn't matter, right?
I said, like, I know Rick. I said, if I didn't know Rick, I would have taken these. Maybe the way some people are taking them, but because I have context. I know him. I've sweat right here on this mat a million times. You know what I mean? He's pushed me a million times to get up again. So having that was able for me to be able to be like, oh no, I'm going to talk to this guy. We're going to be able to talk about this. But for other people, they're just reading the words and putting it into the context of their lives and how they read it. Especially, and if you go back to your thing, it's just like the red hat is racist. That's a trigger point.
Yeah.
Some people are going to consider it racist.
Yeah. What's a red hat? Tell me about this.
The MAGA hat. The Donald Trump hat.
Make America great again.
Okay. And that's a racist.
Well, I mean, the hat is a symbol of a guy who says a lot of things like Africa's a shithole and Mexicans are rapists.
Okay. Let's put a wall up between Canada and U.S.
I'm just saying.
Yeah.
It's understandable why some people would construe that message because that's what branding is. It's branding. He's selling hats. It's making him money. It's becoming financial backing for him.
He's the president.
But what other president do you know? Name another president's brand ever in the history of politics.
I'm with her, Hillary Clinton. I'm with her. That was her brand. That? Yeah, there's hats. I made a point.
Nobody knows that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So there's a huge financial impact to this. It's not just the message.
Yeah.
It's the message is everywhere, and it's going in millions. So it's it's on people's heads. It's on their walls. It's on their cars. That has power.
So but to me, that's perspective, because at the end of the day, I feel like the media made it racist when I don't think Donald Trump's intention was to make a red hat racist. It has a "Make America Great Again." It was a slogan, it was a campaign. So you're going to think that it's racist because of the words that he has used. I'm going to say it's not. We're going to not agree on this opinion, because at the end of the day, I feel like Donald Trump has done a lot for black people. Maybe you don't agree with that because of the words that he uses, but my point is, why is it that when Hillary Clinton threw out the blue hat that said "I'm with her," it wasn't a sexist thing? You know?
Okay, I'll say this. Okay, I'm with her. I can't see the sexist angle from it for me personally, because if I'm with her and I'm a guy, I'm with her.
Okay, but
cool.
flip it. I have a hat that says "I'm with him."
Well, if he's a guy and he's running, I don't have a problem with it for me personally.
Yeah, me neither.
If feminists are, but Make America Great Again, I'll ask you, when was America great? If the further back we go, the worse it is for people that look like me. So you have to understand the connotation of that, what that means.
So the
Great
word
again
again
means that we're talking about a time when it was great. In Reagan's era, when he criminalized crack instead of cocaine and sent millions of people to jail, or was it the war on drugs with Nixon before that? Like, and all this stuff, it has a trickle effect, right?
Yeah.
So it's beautiful, beautiful wording.
Yeah.
So it depends who's reading it.
Okay.
So I wasn't saying it is or it isn't. I'm saying the guy said this and he's wearing that hat.
Yeah. So let's
That's
say.
all.
Okay.
For me,
So let me ask you this then. So the red hat, basically, it would be. I feel like the red hat has gone to the point where if you're wearing the red hat, there's almost like you're allowed to hurt that person. It's just like if I called you the N-word, you almost have this unwritten law that you can literally kill me and kind of get away with it. There's certain
I'm
things
not going
that
to kill you, but if somebody calls me that, I'm fighting you.
Yeah. So like society has created
that's
certain things where if you do it, you now can get hurt or have your life ruined because of it. Do you think it should go that far?
It's like, for example, with me, if, like I said, if somebody calls me that name,
Yeah.
even if they're a bigger guy than me, I'm probably going to get hurt. For the pride of black people everywhere, that could be my ancestors looking down on me. I got to fight this guy.
No, I agree.
I got to fight this guy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's just like one of those type of codes. I think maybe with the hat, what's happening right now is there may be people who want to wear this hat rightfully.
Yeah.
Right? But start talking about their views. I can almost guarantee they're going to be supporting certain things like the Confederate flag, and they're going to be the statue. So when I start looking deeper and start peeling back onion, it's not just a hat. So if 8 of the 10 of the guys wearing that hat have these views, I'm going to have a problem with that.
Yeah. I think that my number might be a little high, though. I don't feel like there's that many Trump supporters that are really anti-black. I'm
just throwing that out.
Okay,
right?
fair enough. Yeah.
The point is, because the media has taken it, because the people who were in charge with Bush behind the, I mean not Bush, with Trump behind the scenes, that when he got in power, these guys are known neo-nationalists, right? There's some that he had to kick out of his, but that was their slogan. That's what they created at that time. I'm just looking at things for what they were when they happened. So to me, if it's if it quacks like a duck, it is a duck.
Yeah.
It stinks a little bit. So I'm like, I wouldn't support it.
So can we agree that racism is the lowest form of communication? Like, it's the easiest scapegoat just to end a conversation. Well, you don't understand because you're black. You know what I mean? Like, oh, well, you're just a black guy. You know what I mean? Or
you're racist.
Yeah, you're racist. Like, it's just easy to classify somebody and end the conversation. Like, if we're having a debate, I think that that's for a good majority, maybe not so much here in Manitoba, but you go further down south. I think they try to end the conversation quick by saying, well, it's your race, and so we're just going to end the conversation there.
Yeah, that happens. Those are people who never wanted to have the conversation in the first place, right? And I'm not here to talk to people who don't want to talk to me. That's a waste of my time. I want to talk to people on the fringe that maybe have beliefs that they think are rooted in good things, but are not seeing the perspective on why. And here, I wanted to say this, and I'm glad I remembered. It's like, for example, Rick. I know Rick is a solid, awesome guy. What you can do sometimes, if you say something you believe in, it gives the people who are on the other side of that fence license for their ideas, right? Like, it's the decent people that are giving these scumbags, they can use these things, they can twist them, and they use them to their advantage, and that's what's happening. So it's not that it's your beliefs are wrong. It's just like, remember who's listening to them.
Yeah. So then that gets to my point of, so now I have to consider what I'm saying because somebody's going to tell me what I can and can't say.
No, not what can and can't say. I think more so what you support, and how you vocalize it.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking
And then also what you're willing to deal with after. Because if you're on one side of the fence
Yeah.
and strongly on one side of the fence, then you got to understand that there's other people on the other side of the fence. And so for me, I won't make a post like that. I don't have time. You know what I mean? How
Yeah.
you respond to even half of those people, I can't. I just don't do it.
Yeah.
I got another meeting right after this.
I
gotta
didn't
go,
realize
boys.
you.
We
I
got to
didn't realize
wrap
it was gonna
this
be a
up
full-time
soon.
job when I did that.
Yeah,
Believe
and
me.
that's the whole thing. So when you put it out there, I think that it's good that you make your stance. But then you also got to realize that there's going to be repercussions to that and how you want to deal with them and how you do it moving. I don't think you need to filter yourself, but then you also have to think about what was the rebound effect from this, the time, the people around you, maybe that got affected by it. And so, you can say the same word, but you might have to just tweak the message. And that just comes down to learning how to say it so that you're still saying what you want to say, but it's, you know what I mean? It just comes off a little bit.
Sure, I
Yeah,
get it. I
yeah.
get it. But again, so then that gets to the point. Now I really have to tweak the words that I'm trying to say. So now I'm going to start saying a message that is very inauthentic to Rick Mancher.
Not really. I think that you could say what you want to say. I say everything I want to say, but I just say it differently now. There's a lot of things I want to say, Rick. I don't say them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, me too, RJ.
There's a whole leadership
Me
thing,
too, Dele.
even with the way we run things. You know what I mean? And how I portray when I say that message.
Yeah.
If I said everything that was on my mind, I don't think I would be in business. I don't think I'd have a wife. I don't think I would have friends.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so you have to really, it's up to you. If you want to continue down this road of being a political debater, then you have to understand how to say your words.
Yeah.
That people can understand it and they don't mistrude what you're saying so that your message gets twisted.
Yeah.
And so if you can say it without any of that happening, then you've achieved yourself, and then that's when they put you in politics.
I think that's impossible. Because you can say
I don't think it's impossible. I think the guys that are in the upper levels they're trained. Like guys like Trump,
writers,
they're trained. Things are written for these guys. Why do you think there are copywriters? Why do you think that type of stuff exists? You're a rapper. The best singers, Babyface.
Yeah.
He's not a great singer. He's a great writer.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah.
So he writes music for the best artists that you think wrote that music, but they can sing it better. He can write it better.
Yeah.
And so I think that if you want to continue to take your mission, I'm not talking to you, Rick. I think it goes for everybody. If I want to be strongly opinionated about the fitness world, if I want to be strongly opinionated about racial, whatever it is, you have to educate yourself so that you can put that message out there and people listen with open ears.
Yeah, and I think
that's up to you to make that decision.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you to do that. That's just how I choose to do my thing.
Yeah, and I think on the flip side of that, people have to then read with an open mind. They can't just be so ready to attack.
Yeah,
that would be my point to your point.
Yeah,
that's where videos are best.
Videos are best.
Videos are best.
And you shot a video actually that I wanted to talk about. I thought it was a very interesting point, and I actually don't know why. But right after you and I had our little back and forth, you posted a video and said, "Do me a favor. Don't ever send me a video of a black person telling a black person that they're not oppressed or there's no racism." You remember that video you shot?
Yeah.
Why not?
It's another one of those slap in the face things.
Okay.
Right? It's kind of like I know if anybody knows like Mel Gibson, right? You know Mel Gibson's a big believer that the Holocaust didn't happen. You know this, right?
No.
Okay, yeah, look it up. Him and his dad, they both spew this unbelievable garbage.
Okay.
Right? Now imagine there was thousands of videos like that or hundreds of videos, and you could send me a video and I could send a video to a Jewish person and say, hey, well, no, this guy says something different.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's that same kind of feeling, right? Only that was more recent. That's on video.
Yeah.
We have actual evidence. We can see it, right? It's treated differently in that respect, right? So it has that same kind of feeling of like, it's like sending somebody to your own home to tell you you don't know what you know.
Okay, but so why does that invalidate their opinion?
I didn't say it invalidates their opinion.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it's insulting to the person you're sending it to.
Okay, so but why not have an open mind to say, okay, this is another person that looks like me, but contradicts my narrative? Why is that a bad thing?
The thing is because it's not usually done in the best interest. It's always done as a tool. It's used as a tool, right?
Okay.
Like it doesn't come in good faith.
Okay.
You could send me a video of anybody.
Right.
Right? Like.
So do you have a problem with like Terry Crews lately? He put something out there that was a little anti-BLM.
Well, he was talking about black power, like black excellence. I think part of it was he's not illiterate, but I don't think he's good at forming his words.
Yeah.
Number one, I think he wanted to jump on it, and these guys are trying to use this to their advantage, right?
Yeah.
Especially with BLM. I mean, looking into that, apparently there is some things about BLM that is not all 100% on base, right? Does that mean that they were a necessary tool? Sure.
Yeah.
Does everything they do have to benefit me 100%? They're their own business. But guess what? If the main core issue was bringing light to the injustices, then guess what? They've done more than what was expected of
All
them.
right. So what about the Black Panthers back in the day? Didn't they do the same thing?
Black Panthers, I think, did more. Black Panthers had schools.
Yeah.
Black Panther had food programs before and after school. They would walk women home after work and stuff like that, make sure the streets were safe. They were protecting the neighborhood against police officers that were coming in and beating up guys. So Black Panthers actually were not a terrorist organization like they were told to be. I don't know if you know the story of Fred Hampton.
I don't.
Okay, so Fred Hampton's 21 years old, rises up to be the leader of the Black Panthers, right? He's about to put together a coalition uniting the Bloods, Crips, and it was another political party. The night or 2 nights before this happens, FBI shows up to his house, shoots 100 rounds, kills him, murders the guy, and then says that they shot first. The only shot that was fired, Fred Hampton shot when he was dead. His body just jerk reaction shot him. Right? So you have a lot of guys like that looking to build, grow, teach, and then they're cut down. You know what I mean? Like, what's the trajectory of that?
Right.
Where would that have gone? How would that affected? Who else? Malcolm X, the Martin Luthers. Like, these guys are. I look at a guy like Obama, and I see Martin, and I'm like, it's kind of the same kind of suave, smooth. Who would he have been? Could he have been a senator? Could Malcolm X have been a senator or congressman?
Yeah.
You know, how much quicker do we move forward, right?
Right.
So you look at a situation like that, and it's just like you can only say, hey, we don't know. We don't know what could have been.
So because of the systems that we have in place for the last centuries, whenever you're going to have an uprising like that, the system is going to knock it down. Is that what your narrative?
That's why when you were talking about rioting, I disagree. I agree with rioting for one reason only.
Okay.
Nobody ever gave anything up willingly.
Yeah.
Right. Once again, it goes right back to the economic thing. You need to hit them where it matters. If JCPenney can't open their stores and their windows are smashed and all the rest, guess what? That's going to affect their bottom line. This goes back to the classism. This boils down to money. This is money. Like, I could tell you this. You want to solve what's going on in the States right now? Tell LeBron James, all of them, don't play. To all the guys in football, we're not playing. Sign some laws, get them in legislation. When you guys are done, holler at us, and we'll come back and play. You get that done in months.
So why don't they do that?
Well, because do you want to give up almost $1 billion? He's only one man.
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
Because money, once again.
Because money. It always comes down to money.
Once again.
Everything.
Right?
Yeah.
The root of of solving equality always boils down to money.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
know
One last
what-
question because it was part of my list. Washington Redskins now canceled.
Yep.
Do you agree with that?
It's not my issue. I would ask a Native person and say, what's your issue on it?
Okay.
How do you feel about it?
Have you asked any Native people about
Yeah,
it?
I actually stopped the guy at my work.
Okay. So have I. What did you get?
Gary Swampy. Yeah.
Okay.
I asked Gary, and he said, yeah, get it out.
They get rid of it?
Yeah, get rid of it.
See, and my guy said no. I said no because at the end of the day, you look at any team name, right? Chicago Bulls. What does a bull represent? Power, strength. You know, horn's going to kill you. You want to run in the streets with them, you're probably going to die. Winnipeg Jets. What's a jet? The most powerful military piece of equipment. It'll kill you, bash you. I feel like all team names come from a place of like where they're the best at whatever it is that they do. So to me, or to this guy, he said, you know, the Redskins, regardless of the way they worded it, I guess, he said, we were a warrior people. This is the people who battled for us. So to him, it was almost endearing to have a Native person on the side of a helmet. And he said, now they just took it away. And he was on, just like me, he's like, for whatever reason, now all of a sudden that's racist. It wasn't racist for the last however many years, but now it has to be. And this guy was actually pretty pissed off about it. So, you know, I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with it. That was one of the things. Like, why does that have to be racist now? You know?
Well, I guess if somebody considers it to be, I'm wondering who are the people that were depicted on the Redskins helmet? Like, what tribe is that? Ask them. I think the answer rests with them, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's where it always should. I'm not going to get offended for somebody else if they're not offended.
Yeah.
I just want to know because, like I said, with Thanksgiving, I wasn't doing anything wrong. But now that I'm educated on it, it's like, okay, if I was in their shoes, would I be celebrating Thanksgiving? Probably not.
Yeah.
So that's just me.
All right, gentlemen. This was a
Yes.
good conversation. I appreciate you coming down
Yes.
and having this with me. We're going to leave it here. You want to talk about your music real quick? How can they find you?
You can find me
on YouTube?
Spotify, Deleo, Deleo, really everywhere. SoundCloud, Facebook, Instagram. I think I even got a TikTok. I got a few videos. When I got hot for a little bit there, and I was like, "Nah, you know what? Yeah, I'm gonna head out. You know?
All right, guys, and you can find our podcast on our Facebook at Fit Club Winnipeg. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is Fit Club Media. I want to thank you again for coming on the podcast. We're going to dance it out.
There you go. Now he's got it.
There we go.
Hey. Yeah.
Yeah.